I had a good intro in my head about having you on the podcast is really scraping the bottom of the barrel.
That's great. Bring that up. Yeah, I think that's great. Do I sound fine, or do I need to?
Yeah, you sound pretty good. Yeah, you sound good, but
Do I sound fine?
Yeah, it's good.
I love your balls.
We were going to do an ASMR channel as a side hustle.
What's AS?
I don't know what it stands for, but it's when like people talk into the microphone.
no,
They,
it's like
very soft. Just could like open beers.
just scratching your back.
Courtney watches that sometimes. I'm like, that's some serial killer stuff. Oh yeah, and then they'll like eat. We're gonna do one for beer unboxings, but ASMR.
Cool. Okay, let's do this.
In my old Kentucky home. Kentucky. Southern town.
3, 2, 1. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Kentucky Commons Radio Hour. I am Michael Moeller, joined this evening by David Satterley, John Renane, and a special guest that we'll get to here in a second. We are recording at Brewgrass Homebrew Supply in Louisville, Kentucky. Back in Louisville, back with John and David. You can see that for yourself on our Patreon via video. Just sign up on video, or rather on Patreon, patreon.com/KYCommons. Joined tonight by one John King of Germantown.
The one, the only.
From DrunkWood
Mr.
LLC.
Louisville Beer.
And John is stepping over my intro.
Sorry.
It's fine.
Sorry.
Joined now. We are happy to be joined now by John King.
Wow, you fucked that
DrunkWood. Yeah.
Well, I'm happy to be on the podcast. I will say I've never listened to it at all, so this is a new experience for me.
So it's like you're listening to it for the first time.
I have a long queue of fishing podcasts, and this just hasn't. Jesus,
There's
You got a fly in here
hasn't
today.
slipped in there.
Yeah, the fly just got up to the mic. So you've been around the block for a while and in the beer scene.
We're
And
now we're
whiskey.
gonna kill this fly.
Okay, there's a fly that we're all distracted by. I think we're fine.
Oh,
Hey, one shot.
I'm Mr. Miyagi. Okay, got the fly. So let's concentrate
That's
on the podcast now.
it's going viral on TikTok.
John has been around the block for a while in different capacities. Beer, barrels, all the beverages, all the bees. I feel like we're really scraping the bottom of the barrel, though, having you on.
Hey.
Yeah, I've had worse.
Oh, yeah. But no, before we get into a little bit about who you are, let's open up this bottle in front of us right now from Purpose Brewing. I brought it back from Colorado last week. For those unfamiliar, Purpose was started 5 years ago by Peter Bicart. And that name might sound familiar because he was New Belgium Brewing's first brewmaster, and he's responsible largely for the sours in America that we've come to know and love. New Belgium was one of the first sour programs, and he's largely responsible for that. However, you can get a sour from Purpose anytime. It's the barley wine that they have I was really attracted to. So we have a little bit of barley wine.
Has DDB reviewed this?
I don't know.
Oh, I actually messaged him today because a friend of mine, my buddy who used to brew at Goose Island, I was talking about something about a Chicago brewery that showed up on the TV show The Bear.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Hopewell Brewing was on like that.
Was it Strauss?
Yeah. And I asked him, I said, hey, no. I said, hey man, have you heard of this brewery? And I was like, DDB. And he was like, what's DDB? He's like, I have no idea. And apparently like where you level in beer is the DDB litmus test of like, have you ever heard of it? He's knows every brewer, around the United States, but has never heard of DDB. So
That's interesting.
It does sound kind of like dirty if you don't know what it is.
not
but-
IDB, not in the butt.
Yeah.
So this is Uppercut barley wine, 10.4% ABV. A silky smooth barley wine with huge caramel flavors, notes of candied malt, toffee, and light oak tannin.
Hell yeah.
It packs a delicious punch right to the kisser.
Is this barrel aged?
No, but that's pretty fucking good.
Smells real nice and sweet. Little cherry note, little vanilla note for sure.
It's a lot of toffee.
Yeah, very, very sweet.
Mhm.
You know what it reminds me of? Thunderfoot.
Thunderfoot.
No, I'm joking. It doesn't remind me of Thunderfoot. New Albanian used to have a barley wine. Thunderfoot was their imperial stout with cherries.
Ah,
Can't remember what their barley wine
I was trying to remember, but I can't.
So let's on the topic of that though. NABC or BBC? Would you just say?
NABC,
Okay.
New Albanian.
Right. So
We're gonna jump into Louisville
is this
beer way back
basically
machine.
how you got involved? Was NABC or
Yeah, that's a great. Actually, that's a great transition.
Thanks. I've been doing this a little bit.
Hey,
Hey.
barley wine.
Barley wine brings us all
It's
together.
life.
And
life.
actually, what's funny is the brewer at New Albanian used to brew at BBC, and his Pat's bearded barley wine actually won gold medal. I think it was gold medal like back years ago.
Yeah.
And that man's name was Dave Pierce. And so in 2010-ish, 2011, 2009, I started getting into home brewing. That was when my old Kentucky homebrew was open. And I don't know why I got into it. I guess boredom. 'Cause I tend to get into hobbies, keep them up, and then drop them. Kind of like Ashley's. But that's not a good joke. And so I started homebrewing. When Paul was there at the time, like I'd ask him a bunch of questions and he'd get irritated. So I had this beer blog called Kentucky Brew Review, where I'd drink a beer. I'd talk, this is when blogs were
Yeah,
a
this
thing.
is back in like the day too.
This is
Like,
all- Also
Are they not a thing anymore?
No. And this is also, we'll bring it up, when Beer Advocate was huge.
Mhm.
So were any of you guys on Beer Advocate?
No.
I knew of it, but I had no
I caught
time
the
for
tail
it.
end of it, but it was kind of dead by the time I got to
Yeah,
it.
I mean, with the owners, they changed how things were done. But I mean, actually, some of my really good best beer friends were all met through Beer Advocate. So like there was Hopsmat and there was Tron and there was, I think my name was just like John King 82, pretty original. So like all my group of beer friends like Julio, we all met up through Beer Advocate and started doing tasting school.
I also meet friends on the internet.
Yeah. So long story short, Dave Pierce for some reason found my blog and would send me messages, and I just kind of give him recipes. Said, "Hey man, can you tweak this? I have no idea what I'm doing." So I'd brew every certain style and got somewhat good at it. And like I did a really good stout, and then once you do one good stout, you're like, all right, I'm going to add this. I'm going to add this. And then totally like destroyed one of our kitchen rooms because it exploded everywhere. I put a bunch of raisins in there. So the excess sugar just, I mean, it was a bukkake all over my back room. So,
Brew cocky.
Yeah. So Dave, at the time, they were doing their barrel aged beer and he had a Willet barrel and he's like, "Hey, do you want this?" And I was like, "Sure." I don't know what I'm going to do with it. So I took that and
Turned it into a career.
turned it into a career, turned it into a smoker that I used to take to U of L football games, smoke meat out of it. And then from that, I kind of started making more smokers, then realized I didn't want to burn down people's houses. So then made like table, just knick-knacky shit.
Adirondack chairs.
Like tables, Adirondack chairs.
I remember
and-
seeing you used to sit up at like Flea Off Market. And
Oh, yeah.
It's
And
all
that's-
over hustling.
Yeah, and that's what you had to do back in the day because Etsy wasn't that big yet. Facebook, the algorithm and stuff, you can only get so much. So a lot of it was word of mouth, going to flea off markets, sitting there in the goddamn sun.
Yeah. A lot of the beer
Tasting.
culture was like that back then too. Like it's so different today. Everything's
is,
like on
and-
the internet and like weird.
And to get ready for today, I actually looked through a ton of old photos from LouisvilleBeer.com, which I'll go into.
You might have done more prep than we did.
I know, I guarantee
You have
And-
notes.
And it was super nostalgic of like seeing how like all the owners of Against the Grain were all doing stuff together.
Yeah.
And everyone hung out. And it was Drew at Fall City, the first version, not the second version. So I don't know if he was at Fall City twice. But
Over on Barrett Avenue, like in that little old, it's like a cigar shop
it's a
now.
cigar shop
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it was just super cool. I ran into Phil Durner the other day, who used to be at BBC, and I hadn't seen him in like 4 or 5 years. So it was good to catch up. But, from that, just started making knick-knacky shit, got a little bit better, and, kind of grew via Facebook and certain things like that, and has grown to what it is today.
Yeah.
to where
And
I-
we'll say what we're talking about too, but DrunkWood is your company.
yeah, sorry, DrunkWood.
And
Thanks
if
for
you guys
saying
are on
that.
our Patreon, you can see one of John's creations right behind us here. We get comments on three things in here. One of
See-
them's the dog who's not here. One's the fridge, and then one's your
See,
Kentucky.
I don't make that anymore.
Yeah,
'Cause
You're
it's
all-
just-
you've grown up.
I've grown up. It's like it's so I mean, if someone asks me, I will, but it's just that's the thing is when you start off, you can't be doing all these elaborate things, I was making tables and things like that. And it just took too much time.
Do you ever wish you lived in Colorado though? It'd be like
Oh, yeah.
a whole hell of a lot easier to get into the game.
I just don't see how like the product of buy a barrel smoker, get a free house insurance policy. I mean, like,
Wow.
this is gold.
This is gold. You know, it's great. I mean, sometimes you get your customers get really shitty drunk and will start buying your products online. And then when you go to install it, they didn't realize how much it would cost. Do you know what that's like, David?
No, I've never had anyone buy anything from me.
No, I was just saying that was the same day
There might be some personal history here.
Yeah. Airbnb. But I mean, it's, you know, I wouldn't have this business and have this career if it wasn't for my footsteps into the beer industry, which we'll discuss, you know, about how Louisville beer transitioned into the guild and all that other kind of crazy shit as well.
But real fast, it's not like you were just like homeless and then you started doing the.
Oh, I was.
Well, it's not like you didn't have a career path by the time you started DrunkWood. Like you had other things going on.
Yeah, so I was working at U of L, was in charge of teacher education at the middle school level, and then was a counselor as well. So initially, I was doing my PhD in counselor education because I was like, I'm going to be a school counselor. I'm going to make changes. And then I realized it was all fucked up. And I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. I mean, I had a couple issues with some faculty members, and we got into it, and it was a whole deal. And I had one professor, and I actually emailed him the other day. I hadn't talked to him in a while, and I just said, hey, you know, want to reach out because at one time I was getting screwed with, and he's Indian. His name's Dr. Diasandu, and he goes, John, they fuck you, we fuck them. And he gave me the questions to my comps because he's like, I'm tired of this bullshit, and just gave them to me.
Hell yeah.
Because I got screwed on it. And he's actually down at Lindsey Wilson. I emailed him, and it was so good to talk to him. But yeah, I had a career in education, and when I was working, I was executive director of the guild pro bono for 3 years. And so I built that up to where it actually became a paid position. And I was at a crossroads of, all right, do I want to do this U of L stuff? Do I want to do the guild stuff, or do I want to take DrunkWood? I kind of went away from the guild because at that time I kind of knew the way it was going. It was like, I could make some decisions, but the board ultimately made all the decisions. So I knew I wouldn't say a puppet, but I knew like I could only do so much.
But you were the first executive director.
Yeah, I was the first executive director. And I mainly got that position because all my work with Louisville beer, because I remember Sam Cruz like sending me a message. He's like, hey man, I recommended this for you. And so did Jeff Beagle, one of the former owners of Country Boy. And so basically it was just because I knew a shitload of people, whether it be Louisville, Kentucky, or outside Kentucky in the beer industry. And I guess just work ethic and all, because like Louisville, I quit when I transitioned to the guild, I quit Louisville beer. I mean, it was, you know, at the time it was kind of what you guys are doing, but
LouisvilleBeer.com. That's
LouisvilleBeer.com, but 10 years beforehand.
Right.
So when craft beer was still new and people were still, I mean, not that they're not excited, but it was just something super new about it. But you got to remember, a small percentage of people were actually into it. And that's the thing, is it was totally a different time. And we were talking off air beforehand, just the camaraderie of all the people that were hanging out.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's why looking through the website today, I got a little nostalgic and a little teary eyed, but then, you know, we did a podcast as well. And I'm sure you guys get this, and this is probably the reason I'm on today, is it gets hard finding guests after doing it week after week after week. And I had to do the whole itinerary, you know, check the beer events. Here's what's happening. And it was always on Sundays. And I was just like, you know, we get fucked up on Sundays. And I was just like, man, I mean, there were a couple times like, I was like, Jesus, take the wheel back from the podcast studio in the Highlands. But, you know, there were great memories with John Worth and Scotty Likens.
Yeah.
So we still bring them up too, whenever we run into each other with inside jokes. But
Well, Scott Likens is still in the scene. He's still with Goodwood. He's doing rep things.
yeah, he's still in the scene. He's not as out and about as he used to be. Like we used to be at all the, you know, I was thinking back in the day, like River City Draft House, used to be the spot.
Yeah.
Used to get the best beer in the city. And, you know, I guess Sergio's was around then, but people still don't go there like they did 10 years ago.
It's the same people.
Same people.
Like sitting at the bar.
No,
Beer store was a place.
Beer store was a place.
But
Grail-
new. Like that was when it was new.
No, Grail wasn't around, but like Value Market was the place to get beer. And we used to hold a Value Market beer festival that was phenomenal. But one time we had it inside I can't remember why. 'cause,
Wait, you
like,
had it inside the grocery store?
In the little mezzanine.
little
thing, or in the
mezzanine.
little
Oh,
like
yeah, yeah,
corridor.
yeah.
There's videos of this.
It was actually
And-
really
yeah.
fun.
But the thing was, people got so shit-faced
Wasn't it
drunk.
like Halloween or something?
Yeah,
Like,
we dressed up too. 'cause,
everybody was dressed up. It was really weird.
The dude from Stillwater was in town, Brian Strumke. or whatever.
Yeah.
And people got so drunk they would, instead of finding the bathrooms, they'd just go downstairs and piss in random corners of buildings. Yeah, it was.
So
yeah.
a normal day in Mid City Mall, but
Normal
you know,
day.
yeah.
I mean, because back in the day, value market was very crucial in our events. Four Pegs, when it was
Yeah.
Preston was the owner, they used to have the same signature events. Founders was like, when we did it, we let other breweries come in because there weren't that many.
Beer Week.
Beer Week. When we did Beer Week, we let other people come in. And it was a fun time, but just like you guys know, it's a long ass week and you just get tired of doing all those things. And yeah, I was glad to see it be done.
Yeah.
And kind of move on in regards.
Yeah, but we're in a spot now where, I mean, we have, 27 tap rooms throughout the city. We don't need to get somebody like a Founders or, other example of equivalent, post-racist Founders. But
Yeah.
we don't want to get Founders involved anymore.
I do miss all day IPA, I have to admit. How much racism
I don't.
is that?
We've done it with just Louisville for almost 5 years.
Yeah,
so.
this will be year 5. Yeah.
So that's a huge jump from like you talking about 10 years ago having a beer fest in Mid City Mall.
Oh, it's
to-
huge.
to
It's been
now. Yeah.
it's been so cool to watch. Me personally, I'm glad I'm stepped out of the scene. And that was a part to do with why I didn't want to do the full-time job with the guild. I had made all my friends. I had good friendships before I stepped into that role and during. And I didn't want to be at a brewery every day.
And
Plain
it takes away
simple.
from like good internet trolling time too. If you have to like maintain relationships and like
You
be
have
a
to-
politician and like
Yeah, you
Yeah.
can't troll and you can't talk shit about
Uh,
different breweries owners named Ted and other things like that. And yeah, turd.
I miss the best brewery in Kentucky Facebook posts.
Oh yeah, those were good. That used to piss Scott Scheffler off for
Really?
some reason. Oh
I-
yeah,
I can't
he
imagine.
would just get irritated.
really?
But a lot of times I would say that Schlafly, when he was their rep,
Hey,
was-
Schlafly was, I mean, still is, but like that was some of the best beer you could get. Like Tasmanian every year, I'd be all up on that, man.
I have a little secret in the fridge.
Oh,
too.
really? All right. all right.
But yeah, when you could get the Tasmanian, the American, because I
Yeah.
remember it was a T and A, and then I think it is an E English IPA. Those
Yeah.
are some of the best beers in the city, and we don't get them anymore.
Value market, you'd just go grab your 6-pack and like whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah. Shelatoe would be one I'd get from BBC. I'd always be
Oh.
excited when they'd make that one, which was like a collab with Red River Gorge, I guess, or whatever.
I forgot about Sheltui.
Yeah. That was
Yeah,
one I would always hunt
BBC
down.
actually, for the day, actually wasn't bad beer.
No, people come in here once a month at least and ask for the alt beer recipe, or they say like, I want to make like the old BBC mead, which I guess is like a braggot or something, but like people that it's still
Yeah.
part of the culture.
Well, then Hometown picked up the red.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
that was
that's
Cumberland.
Cumberland.
Oh, Cumberland.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
But it's very, it's a red ale. So yeah, like those old school.
Nice try,
recipes.
noob.
So, so how long were you with the guild doing that
3
pro
years.
bono?
I think 2.5, maybe not 3 years. I left. Actually, what's funny is I left in spring 2016, which is the same spring that I closed on the house and left my job at U of L to take DrunkWood full time.
Mhm.
So yeah, so I was there 2.5 years, and during that time we did a lot of big laws regarding distribution, and SB11 was actually the one I left on. So one of the big distribution things was Rheingeist was trying to come in, start their own distribution company,
And did actually, right?
they did.
Yeah.
They did.
And we shut them down.
Yeah.
And they were pissed at us, but we had the distributors on our side. So from an audience perspective, it's nice now to see how they've gone back to distribution, pissed off the distributors.
Yeah.
So it's kind of come full circle.
And the reason they couldn't do that, just
Yeah.
for anyone that doesn't know, is because the Kentucky laws operate on a 3-tier system
Mhm.
of producer, distributor, and then retailer. So any beer that is produced has to then go through distributor
Yeah.
at that time,
AKA the middleman.
the middleman,
Yeah.
and then gets set to a retailer, then ultimately to your fridge.
Yeah.
Um,
And there are arguments to be made that's, there's benefits to doing it that way, but
but
the
what
guild's action and kind of
Yeah, and
leveling
that's-
that playing field
That's
was
what we
huge.
did.
Yeah.
So we're constantly meeting with reps and getting out there doing a lot of groundwork. So I remember when we had it passed, it ended up being a snowstorm, and we still stopped at there's a Mexican place in Frankfurt and just got
I think That sounds familiar.
Yeah.
I think we've
Yeah.
done that before.
Yeah. So I mean, there was a lot of good times, but it was one of those things to where I knew my time was done, and I didn't want to be around beer that much. It's as you guys know, sometimes you just need a day off.
Yeah, and we just had a nude kind of. Derek took over after
He just said nude. I was like,
well, we
And
just
we-
had a
and we had a
nude.
nude.
But then Derek was in for a few years, and now
Mhm.
we have Jesse Harding as the new director of the guild. So it's good
Yeah.
to get some fresh blood in
Yeah,
politics
and-
every
yeah,
once in a while. If
and-
only Washington would follow the example set by John King and the KGB.
yeah. It's
Do your time, get out.
I think I saw a picture of where Jesse was at when I was announced that I was going to be the run of it. So
Nice.
yeah, it's kind of come full circle.
Yeah.
And I still am friends with most of the owners. But there's so many new breweries and stuff like that. I just have no idea.
Yeah.
and
I mean, in Louisville, we've seen such tremendous growth, but that's been true all over the state too. Like
Yeah.
there's breweries in Elizabethtown, Paducah, Hopkinsville. Like there's breweries in every single little small town from, what do we say, from Pikeville to Paducah or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's great to see.
Because I don't know. Where do we compare anymore like to other states? Are we still behind?
Sure.
I'm going to assume so.
Per
We're still-
capita.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because we just have some stupid old blue laws and other things like that. And one of our biggest things of fighting when I was in the guild was that the Distillers Association had a ton of pull, which was
Yeah.
great. So it was hard. It was, if we could pair up and do some things with them, it was great because then we would, benefit from them.
Yeah.
But we were the little kids.
But
Yeah.
it is interesting seeing the perspective change from different government bodies, tourism groups, et cetera, that we
Yeah.
work with now because they are embracing beer even this year in 2022 more than the last 2 years.
Yeah, I was telling you the other day, we actually worked with Mayor McBike Lane and kind of had we had a big, and I was actually at the time, I'm still proud of it, but we had this big referendum because I think it was the Distillers of the Restaurant Association did something with the mayor and had this big thing. And we were just like, why not us? So
Yeah.
we met with them and started putting on events. One of my favorite one, and we were so underprepared. We did a whole bike ride to different breweries through the city, and the mayor was with us, and they shut down I mean, there was just hundreds and hundreds of people.
This was the start of their first passport program.
Yeah.
Yes.
That didn't
Kind of
happen.
Yeah.
Like they had that. I went there. It was at the Old Falls City on like 10th Street.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a big to do about like, oh yeah, hey, we're finally gonna do this.
Yep.
And then that was the last I ever heard of it.
Yeah, because that was kind of right before I stepped out. And so I was just like, because we were working at the time with the wine trail to do a kind of like the beer and the wine. And I remember I think we met at the Fraser right around there to discuss that with them. So yeah, we had a couple really cool events that we did that I really wish would come back, especially, the thing that Amelia did for.
That was awesome.
Yeah, that kind of inspired me. I was like, man, we need to do that
bike
kind of stuff.
bike
again.
cruise and brews.
Yeah.
I think. So you say that you kind of stepped back, and I guess it's true to some extent, relatively speaking, but you're still very involved in the beverage scene because you have to be, because you are getting barrels.
Are you saying I'm an alcoholic?
No, I'm saying that you're getting barrels. Like even I remember running past Atrium a few weeks ago, and I saw you like getting a barrel from them and just putting it in the back of your truck.
Yeah, and that's cool too. And like, because I usually don't work with barrels that had beer in them, because what happens is you get all the sugars, the yeast, and everything. You let that barrel sit, it's going to be a mold factory. But Spencer's so awesome is like if he gets like some rare one-off barrels and they need to do something with them, he just sends them to me. Like if it was just a regular like plain Jane Heaven Hill, I'd just say I appreciate it, but throw it on the burn pile. But he's got me some pretty cool barrels along the way. I used to get BBC ones all the time. I think I was paying like back in the day like maybe $40 a barrel.
Jeez.
But the issue was, and these were on some earlier pieces, I didn't know that they would eventually mold over. So there's probably some work of mine somewhere. So if you have a mold infestation in your house, I'm sorry.
It's a
and I
Japanese
apologize.
moss garden. It's like
Yeah.
it's its own like category on Etsy.
Yeah. And so it's so I can get barrels from different breweries if I want to. I don't try to as much. But yeah, they support me just as much as I support them. I had,
So like a little bit.
yeah, so a little bit. I mean, I'm trying to think if some of the breweries like Country Boy has some of my work in there. West Six does. And then like places like, Treehouse has some, Sante Dares has some. And I mean, it's just everywhere. Why are you taking a picture?
For the gram, baby.
For the
Gotta
gram.
get it for the gram.
But now, I mean, I still work. I'm still friends with them. I still go to their breweries. But yeah, we don't have a symbiosis anymore.
And Drunkwood's gotten pretty big. You're now in the fishing circuit.
Yeah, I am.
The pro bass.
So
I
it's-
don't know what the organization
yeah.
is.
So
but-
I'm a nerd when it comes to fishing. So like, I started doing this in 2012, and there were a few people that did it then, and there's still some few people that are along the way that are still successful. So I've seen places open, places stop. Fuck, I forgot the question. I was just like,
You're into fishing.
oh yeah. So I had to kind of realize a niche market, and I'm not a person that's going to contact a distillery and say, hey, carry my work. Because the thing is, all those distillers are corporations. So they are very picky on how they want their product, and they want a lot of them. And that's why I don't have my work in a lot of places, because the thought of me making 50 of the same thing
Yeah, it's dead.
drives me fucking bonkers.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll do some stuff for realtors and things like that, and one store. But yeah, that just it drives me bonkers. Like, I don't see any pleasure in that. But yeah, I somehow got connected through the fishing industry because I'm a fishing nerd and I listen to all these fishing podcasts, not this podcast. But yeah, and so I just started.
Last week we did a whole episode about fishing. You didn't listen
Yeah,
to
you
that?
didn't listen to that one?
Oh
Jeez.
shit!
It's great.
I'm glad I'm entertaining that Satterley's texting his wife during this. So,
He's tagging posts about his happy life.
I'm pulling up the next segment, but that's fine.
that's fine. Yeah, it's just a weird niche market. I mean, I make them trophies and things like that, and I send stuff to the pros, but it's a very small percentage. The biggest percentage of my work is sent to bourbon hoarders that buy a lot and never tell their wives how much they're spending. And then their wives will contact me and be like, hey, I'd love to get this gift for my husband. And I'm just like, you don't know how much your husband or partner, whatever, spends on the bourbon. And it is what it is. It's gotten very successful through COVID. My business basically doubled, which I never thought during COVID it would, but it's because everyone was stuck behind a computer. But it's a constant challenge with just like any industry. Getting barrelheads is harder to do.
It's a tough thing to scale too, because like you say, the only way to make 50 of something would be to like
It's just
you
you.
get a little shop and
it's
hire
just you in your
somebody, or
garage.
like, exactly.
It's just me in my garage. I do have my friend Izzy who comes and helps me and does amazing scroll saw work. He's a retired U.S. Marshal. And
Nice.
he gets bored, so he comes helps me. And that's my thing is people give me shit all the time. They're like, oh, your stuff's so cheap, and I'm just like, I'm making a good living.
Yeah.
I don't want to hire anyone and I don't want to move out of my shop because it pays all my overhead. And if I want to take the dogs for a walk, I could. If I had to shop somewhere else, I'd have to be driving back. And I've just made it work, and it just kind of the process. The holidays suck.
Yeah.
I mean, the holidays like really suck.
I feel the same way. It's like you can take something and try to be the biggest like homebrew store in the world, but
Yeah.
like, dude, that'd be kind of a nightmare. Like the hair would be even more gray than it is now if you had to like manage an entire like freaking industry.
Yeah.
It's fun to be able to kind of enjoy your day and be able to kind of structure it how you want without having it own you.
Yeah. I mean, it typically
It still does.
It
But
owns me. September through November.
yeah.
Half of December pretty much owns my ass.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, that's true.
yeah, it's just, I mean, the hours are typically 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. and then eat dinner, go to bed, and do it all over again. But the money's worth it until you pay taxes.
We're talking about too how you have like, you have pieces and places all over. And I know you're kind of you guys travel and get around to different places. Do you all do beer tourism or bourbon tourism or fishing or nature? Do you got what makes a good vacation to you? And then kind of how do you view Louisville as a beer city compared to some of your other like favorite beer spots that y'all go to?
I guess I should be honest on this. So if you ask my wife, she hates that whenever I plan a trip, it's beer centric. So a lot of the times I plan trips without her, and that's what some people don't understand. But my wife and I will do together.
Courtney and I do that too.
Yeah, we'll do together vacations, and I will try my best not to involve as many breweries because she likes some beer, but she'd rather get wine drunk and not have to. But then, yeah, and so
Listen to you talk to the bartender for 3 hours. or
yeah,
whatever. Yeah.
So I'll do a lot of my trips to Vermont and Vermont, Nashville. Well, Nashville she goes, but other places with beer buddies, and certain things like that. Just because I know she'd be miserable. I mean, it'd be like, I don't know. What is something you're interested in Saturday?
I mean,
Instagram stories.
Yeah, mainly beer.
Beer.
Oh, yeah. Well, but yeah. And so
Bucky's.
Bucky's.
Bucky's, yeah. That's a good
Bucky's.
one. That's a good one. Yeah.
So, you know, Asheville's definitely our second home. I'm
I mean, you're wearing a wedge shirt right now.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
an asshole tourist to where I get pissed that everyone goes there now. I started going there back in 2011, and I'm just like, you know, in 2011 I had no idea. Wedge was actually the one place we went to. Went to one place which was some biker bar where dogs were sitting at the bar.
Hell yeah.
And my friend and some guy walked up to my buddy and said, "Hey, I'll give you a blowjob for some coke." And it was super like.
So great place.
Hey,
Yeah.
Asheville back in the day was not the like place that it is now.
No,
it was
it
like dirty
wasn't.
hippie. It still is that too, but you got to go find the dirty
But
hippies.
it's a rich, dirty hippie.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and it was,
Yeah.
and so I see what it's became, and it's great for the city. But then I also know a lot of people that live there that hate the tourism because I mean it's made everything go up. Usually we'll stay outside the city and travel in. Right now I keep my mouth shut on
Yeah.
beer snobs. Where did we go? Well, hit the fucking search button
Yeah.
and put Asheville because there's 30 goddamn posts if you do a little research
last week.
there, Ted.
In the last
So yeah.
Do you ever go to Chicago? I mean,
Yeah.
it's 5 hours. Like that's
Yeah.
a lot of good. Beer.
Actually, and that's what I looked to you for recommendations because we went up there for a wedding and went to a few different places and it was fun. It's just the only issue with Chicago is it's so big.
Yeah,
so
I
you're,
feel the
like,
same way.
so you're uber like you almost want to hit different pockets in different areas and there's no
It's
way.
like me in New York City. Like I'm paying attention to one borough at a time. I'm not.
Yeah, it's impossible. I was just up in Buffalo, which actually had which you gave me recommendations for that, had a pretty good beer scene as well. I need to get back to California because I think the last time I was in California was 2014, and it's just a totally different landscape there anymore. So, but there's so many breweries, and there's also so many shitty breweries.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, let's transition to Louisville breweries. So,
Louisville now kind of does. It's reminding me of what Asheville was like 10 or 15 years ago almost. Like
Yeah.
some of the grittiness, I think, is what made like Wedge and Green Man
Yeah.
and like those original. I can't remember the name of the other one that was down there downtown.
Asheville Brewing Company.
That was one of the
ABC,
older
it's
ones.
closed,
Yeah.
Lab.
But yeah. To your point, go ahead.
That was a joke about them being shitty. We all know. I'm
Wow.
gonna get a letter when I get home tonight.
It's already in your inbox.
Yeah. Now it's the thing is, beers came a long way. A lot of those breweries that when I started at the Guild and Louisville Beer are still here. Like,
Apocalypse.
there's none of. I mean, if they were super shitty, they would have closed by now, unless someone won a lottery ticket.
Yeah.
But it's.
One guy did. That's 8 Ball story.
That's true, and they're closed.
Yeah, they closed. They closed. Like I was thinking about this today because the guys at Third Turn, when I worked with the Guild, were buddies of mine. But like Third Turn's great for J-Town.
Mm-hmm.
I never, and this is nothing against them, think, it's a random Sunday. I'm going to drive my ass to J-Town. And that's just how it is. Like I just went to Butchertown Brewing for the first time last week, and I was embarrassed to tell Andy. I was like, "This is my first time here."
Because you're just there for the anniversary party.
Yeah, for the stouts. I was
Yeah.
there for the stouts because I was honest. I said I don't drink sours, and they hurt my tum tum, and so I wanted to have some stouts. But they're staples that I always go to. And I'm really big on shipping port right now.
Yeah.
She's crushing beers and food and just life in general.
I think that sentiment mirrors like bigger cities. Like we were talking about Chicago. Like you go to Chicago, you're stopping at Rev, but like if you want to go to Moore, which is a great brewery, I mean you got to go all the way out to Villa Park. It's a 25-minute train ride. It's not always just convenient. Just get out and like destination breweries in the city are kind of like, well, there's one right down the road.
Mhm.
So
And you also got to take a step out too. Is like you got to realize that people, when people come to the city for bourbon stuff, they seriously get excited to try some of the breweries. Whereas we've been here, we don't get excited anymore. And that was one of the nostalgia things of looking through all the past LouisvilleBeer.com is you seeing like the young people at Great Flood, the young people at Mile Wide when they were super. Not that they're not excited anymore, but like
Big smiles.
Yeah. Before running a business for 5 years,
Right.
it's taken every soul from their body.
I
Yeah.
mean, you say we, but like we're in the niche in the culture. Like, yeah, we don't get that excited necessarily because we're in it every day. But there are people, and these are the people that we serve via Louisville Ale Trail Passport, the people, they're just like, oh, turns out I like beer.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, let's make this an activity with our friend group once a week and go out to a new brewery. That's
Mhm.
fun. Let me get a flight.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. My favorite question, like fielding with the passport, is just kind of like, oh, well, we've been to breweries in Louisville. It's like, have you been to all of them? And they're like, yeah, well, we think. And then I'm like, what
We've
about
been to Against the Grain and BBC.
Yeah, it's like
It's like,
this one. They're like, no, I've never heard of it. It's like, exactly.
Yeah.
Like there's still a lot to go.
Yeah.
Actually, when I was at Butchertown, there was a lady there who had her passport.
Hell
That was her
yeah.
goal. I overheard her talking, and then I said, "You know, those people are kill cats, right?" And she ripped it up and threw it down. I was just like, "That'll do."
But no, Chicago is a huge beer city. I hope to one day be like them, though. But did you hear the Goose Island news this week?
About Bourbon County
Bourbon
release?
County lineup.
Yeah.
I did. And as I mentioned earlier, you know, one of my best friends used to be the head innovation brewer, and he used to literally take his Goose Island and pay for dental work. That's what he
Wow.
traded.
Wow.
And so I kind of got spoiled on that, like going to his house. He had all the old vintages. He got married when I was up there in March. He had like his 2019 Barleywine and some other stuff. So I don't give a shit about AB InBev. It is the beer I look forward to every year. And the fact that, like, I was at Mammoth Liquors in Campbellsville yesterday, and they still had cases of 18, 19, and 20 sitting behind there.
Wow.
Yeah.
How much was it?
I didn't buy any, but the last time I did, I think it was like 11 or 12 bucks a bottle,
Which
Hell
is
yeah.
which is a
sure.
steal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It goes down. It comes out at like 15, 16 and up.
Well,
Like, it goes down.
I think David has the new lineup pulled up right now. So let's run through it. What did
Yeah.
they release? And then
Yeah.
talk about, just without tasting it, how you would rate them and ideas like.
Can I get another drink?
Yeah, what you want?
Yeah,
man?
actually.
Yeah. Okay.
Did you bring some stuff?
Well,
again?
You gonna pop one of yours?
Actually, I
Let's do
brought a
that.
bunch of stuff.
Let's do it.
All right.
Let's
So
do it.
yeah,
Let's
let's
do
do
it.
a show and tell.
Yeah, let's do the show and tell. If not, because the show and tell lasts like 20 or 30 minutes. Let's just do it. Let's see if I can reach this.
Maybe.
You want to read us one of the variants while he grabs?
Yeah. So the last couple of years, Goose Island, we were talking a little bit earlier about how distilleries are super specific on what they'll allow your brand to be put on as far as beer goes. And even in John's case, it literally just wood. That was the barrels. So they've really leaned into the distillery tag on that. But this year, it looks like they're going with Heaven Hill, Four Roses, Wild Turkey, and Buffalo Trace.
Wow.
And I think last year was a huge focus on Old Forester. But what I'm pretty excited to see back is the coffee stout that's coming back. That was a 2010 originally released in a big bomber. Coffee notoriously like fades, it changes flavor, etc. over time.
Except for Cinnamon Toast Busters.
Yes.
Still got beer.
I will say I had a 2010 coffee probably like 2 or 3 months ago. It was still fine.
Hell
Oh yeah, the coffee. You'll get a little green pepper, but coffee's behind the barley wine. Coffee's my favorite variant.
Yeah, so they're doing that again this year with Intelligentsia out of Chicago. I'm really excited for that. One of the newer ones that's coming out is the Biscotti Stout. So that came the way Goose does their innovation. There's and sorry if I butchered this, but the way I understand it is there is a small system that they have there, and anyone in the company is allowed to source these recipes, ideas, etc. Goes to this R&D team, and then every now and again they'll make it and
That's
see
cool.
how it turns out.
Yeah.
I could do a live call, my friend, to see if you're right.
That'd be funny.
But this Biscotti Stout was actually sourced from the HR team, which is
Oh, nice.
like unusual, but also awesome that they're getting a say in this. So
Thank you, sure.
this is going to be notes of anise, marzipan,
What'd you say?
cocoa, anise, anise, anise,
Anise.
no, anise.
Licorice.
Nostalgia from your grandma's kitchen. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Sir Isaac Stout is another one that they're doing. This is gonna have figs in it.
What?
I love figs.
Oh, figs.
10,000 pounds of them to be
It's a lot.
specific.
I have a fig tree that produces.
Fuck you. Is that shade? Are you throwing shade at me? Oh, goddamn fig tree. I've had it for 5 years. Hasn't produced a single fruit. I'm ready to burn the son bitch down.
Are you sure it's a fig tree?
I know it's a fig
It's
tree.
probably a walnut tree. Like, God damn it.
No, I.
I believe you know a fig when you see it. It's fine.
So I believe so.
What?
I don't know. Like always, they're doing a proprietor's blend stout. This one was inspired by a cocktail, so this is going to be banana pineapple
That's unusual for them,
colada
isn't it?
type deal.
They don't usually go super fruity.
Speaking of cocktails, is that one of your favorite movies, David?
Hey,
I-
Tom Cruise.
I've never seen it.
Have you
You've never
Top-
seen
Top
it?
Gun?
Get the fuck off this podcast right now.
I am like
Have you-
10 years old, and everyone just talks about all this stuff.
That's
that
true.
You're
Cocktails like from what,
Beer.com. I
89
was
or something?
still on like Newgrounds.com playing Flash games like on the internet. Like
Flash games.
Yeah.
That was a good era of the internet too.
Yeah. So yeah.
So of all the evil companies that AB InBev does, Goose
still
Island
working on
seems
this-
like one of the
still
ones. Oh,
working
well,
on this-
hurry up, dude. This has
there's
been like
a
a
lot.
All right,
There's
go
a
ahead.
lot.
Go ahead.
And John's favorite's coming back. There's a 2-year barley wine. We have gone a long amount of time without a barley wine.
I wonder how expensive that's going to be.
My guess is Willie Nelson high, but
And that's the thing is too, like prop and stuff. I mean, those things are going to be $25-$30. A lot of their stuff that they did last year, like the Old Forester and there was something else. God, the 1-2
the Bookers.
Yeah, they just weren't that great. Like last year's variants weren't that fucking good. They were hyped up and people paid for them, and then people flipped them just like anything else.
Yeah.
You were kind of going in details. What happens with the Bourbon County is they pick however many 6 variants.
Mhm.
They probably make 12 to 15, and then what they'll do is on their Fulton Tap House. I mean, they'll either for the brewers they're just going to tap them for the brewers, or they'll release them to the public.
And a lot of times what's funny is people will scrape the filings for the labels of the TTB. So they'll apply with like you said, like 10, 12 labels. And then people will see that application, rip it off and be like, these are the variants, when it's only going to be 5 or 6 of them.
So it's like when they film fake endings for like Marvel movies.
When I was primarily freelancing PR, one way that I would try to find new clients was to look through the TTB for new labels. Like, hey, you have this new label coming out. Do you need help? However, there's a really neat trick to this, in that there's this dude already doing that, scraping the TTB. He had an Instagram account called Coming Whiskey. So all I would do is I had alerts.
That's not a great name. Just saying.
No, it's not. But I would set up alerts on Instagram. So whenever he posted, I'd be like, oh, cool. Look at this Indianapolis distillery that's coming out with a new product at some point soon.
Yeah. Interesting. It's a wild world out there.
Yeah.
Speaking of cool labels.
Yeah.
What
Oh
we got?
yeah.
What-
So actually just got this today. Funny thing is when I worked with the guild, I used to be on meetings with the owner of Parish. Super cool, very attractive young man that had no problem with the ladies that I witnessed. But yeah, it's Parish Brewing, Ghost in the Machine.
Where are they based out of?
Somewhere in fucking Louisiana.
Louisiana.
Broussard, Louisiana. So they ship here now. So they usually, you can get 2 to 4 different variants of beer, and their customer service is awesome. Because my first package, like I wasn't seeing any updates, and apparently it got lost in like it sat in a trailer for 5 days.
Nice.
And I sent them a message, said, "Hey, not to be a pain in the ass, but I'm not seeing any updates." And a girl named Megan was like, "All right, check back in 2 days. If it's not there, we'll ship you a new one."
That's awesome.
Yeah, and so they were super cool, and they got a brand new customer.
So John, what's John Renane? What's on that label?
So basically, I'm seeing the Ghost in the Machine. We've got a good little skull here with the hop cranium dome thing, and it looks like somebody's zoned in on him. He's got a laser beam going into his right temple, and he's got a big explosion of hoppy goodness coming out of the other side. But yeah, this is just a good New England style, I'm assuming, from looking at it here. Double India Pale Ale. They don't mention that it's supposed to be hazy, so let's give it a taste here and see what we got
Yeah,
too.
so-
It's definitely always hazy.
Okay.
I've
okay.
never had this beer before.
You've never had this beer?
No,
I never have
Oh,
either.
man. This was one that was really like sought after when they first started getting around.
it was in bottles, I think.
They had bottles, and then they did like DDH, and that was like, back when Treehouse would do like King Julius and stuff like that. Was
Yeah.
like up. It was competing with that.
Parish was always one of those ones that had a really good reputation. Like you would just try to find their stuff if you could.
Yeah, and now, like you said, you can get it to your doorstep
Which is
because of
awesome.
direct ship.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Which is
and
changing the game.
that's totally changed. That in itself and distribution has changed the whole scene in Louisville too.
Yeah.
That's changed why like things like River City, well, among other things, but it's no longer relevant. Like beer stores, Grail's different because it's a different niche thing. back in the day, Grill had a lot of beer. They were very founders focused and certain things, and Bell's focused, like with verticals and stuff like that. Well, they don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
So it's totally cool to see how things have changed. Like even like Against the Grain. I love those guys, but their whole marketing and everything is totally, you don't see shitty underpants anymore. You see fresh college girls in bikinis and stuff for their marketing. And
It's true.
It's totally it's something I'm not used to. I just watched a beer review where they were reviewing a licorice stout, and Jerry kept talking about smelling of anise.
Oh god.
And so that's what I mean. And it was,
Yeah.
it made me miss just the good old days, but that's how things go.
That's
move
the way it
on,
goes,
They
yeah.
grow and certain things like that.
The industry matures, even if the brewers don't.
yeah,
sometimes.
And, COVID, made them change, and those that could change, survived and everything. Thankfully, we didn't see any. I don't think any.
We
shut-
had 0 closures. For
Zero
COVID.
closures,
Yeah,
which
which
was
is
awesome.
We
Yeah.
actually had 6 open.
We had
I know.
six
That was the
open.
crazy
2020.
thing. Yeah. Just like COVID was hard for small businesses, but it like Louisville, people supported and people came out to the new breweries that were opening, even if they could just give it like to go.
I
Like
spent so much money on beer
During
every
COVID?
week.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
It was, that was the thing is I would ride my bike over to Pearl Street to fill growlers.
yeah.
And just trying to support those people as well. And yeah, I'm glad to see, it's just,
I remember I was just like, oh, I'm gonna go support these breweries. So then I went to maybe like 6 and just bought merch all day long.
Sure.
I was like, I'm gonna get this T-shirt. I want this koozie. I want this hat. And I did that, and I had just like, okay, cool. What am I gonna do with all this now?
Yeah.
Like, I love you guys, but like, I don't need this.
Care packages.
I was just going to Monnik and buying cases of Hawks.
Yeah,
not
same here.
because they needed the charity. I like that beer a lot, and
Yeah.
I had an excuse to now drink at like 11 a.m. So
So
Yeah,
that's
it's
Charity, man.
that's a perfect transition
Helping the small business.
into our next beer.
Nice.
After we finish this, Monnik just released Tropic of Capricorn, their double IPA. It's about 9.2% alcohol, even though it doesn't say that here, because I had to text Buddy because someone asked me at the bar when I bought this, and I was like, I don't know, 11? He's like, wow. And I was just like,
Maybe.
it's a big one. That's an old time favorite. That
Yeah,
they've
so-
only done it a handful of times.
Mhm.
Yeah, so this is his first time doing it as a head brewer. So
Okay.
he's super proud of it, super excited. Love Buddy.
We had him on the
he's-
podcast. It was a great episode.
I
Great.
need to
Yeah.
listen
It's
to
it's
it.
one
good.
worth listening to for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
meats and all kinds
A lot of
of
meats,
things.
a lot of
Yeah.
deer meats,
He's an interesting dude, man. We talk mushrooms together, not like
shrooms.
shrooms.
Not
shrooms.
y'all are, shroomers.
Yeah, we're shroomers,
Yeah.
man.
Get those
I got fucking
morels and
Chigger bites all over my legs right now
Mm.
to prove it.
Great.
Yeah,
But you live in Germantown with all of us pretty much.
Yeah, we're all homers.
And Monnik is the Germantown brewery.
Schnitzelberg.
Schnitzelberg.
Sure.
Yeah, well,
You son of a bitch.
Sorry, Greater Germantown.
You know, and
Yeah.
I drive by it all the time, but like, is it Chimera? Is that what it's called?
Chimera, yeah.
Chimera,
Chimera.
whatever. I mean, it's right on the cusp, but
Sure.
because I forget about it, and it's nothing against them. I'm not vegan, so I know their food's good. But it's just, I think we could definitely sustain one more brewery here. I don't know if you've talked about Trellis coming up.
Yeah, they just
They
kind
just
of
made
got
an
to be able to
announcement.
announce.
You
Yeah.
know, Germantown people shit on. Oh, that's what we need. More drunkards coming to the area.
Yeah.
It's,
I will say I didn't see as much pushback. So for people not aware of the story, the old it's an old, I think it used to be there were a brewery or just like
It was
a
the Schaefer Meyer brewery.
yeah, and they would use it to make their ice and stuff during Prohibition. So they call it the Ice House, like around
So yeah,
here.
it was fairs brought refrigeration to Louisville
Yeah,
during Prohibition.
this
But-
building's been sitting empty basically since then
so
and
it was-
deteriorating. And they just announced finally, kind of officially, that what's the name of the distillery? Do we remember, or have they named it yet?
Yeah, they have. It was mentioned. I don't remember.
I don't remember either.
oh,
but,
I think it was Mind Goblin Distilling.
Okay, I'll take your word for that. It sounds
Mind
good to me.
Goblin, these nuts.
So that'll be really cool to see what they do with that, because they got a good financial backing coming in, and you can people argue about gentrification in our neighborhoods and stuff like that, but again, it's a building that's just fallen down, and it's going to take so much money to even just keep it from falling down. So I'm excited, and with that, we're getting a new brewery too, which is Trellis. Friends of the show, Kyle and Ryan are going to be kind of the operators behind that. Both excellent brewers, both kind of long-standing, upright.
I think they're going to be on next week.
Yeah. So
By the
stay
way.
tuned for a kind of behind the scenes peek with them. But I'm very excited for
I
that.
can't wait. I always thought they were going to demolish that building. So I was
or it would
kinda
demolish
waiting.
itself one day, like
Yeah,
tragically.
and it's 13, 14 stories
Yeah.
tall. So the plus side is when this brewery opens, if you want to swing by my house, throw eggs at it, it's right there.
Right there.
So-
Just go up on the roof, throw eggs at David Satterley's house. You can probably hit him while he's out mowing the yard.
Is it Kyle and Ryan? Is that their names?
Yeah,
You got some big fucking shoes to fill in your next week's podcast, just to let you know.
that's true.
As you
That's
stare into
true.
the camera. Yeah.
Stare into the camera. Yeah.
I don't think they're on our Patreon, so they probably won't
the
see it.
13 people that listen to this are gonna be like, oh yeah, that guy's right.
Indeed, he is.
Indeed, he is.
But there wasn't enough, like a bunch of pushback. I thought people would be all up on the Facebook page, and there were a few comments here and there. But
I mean, that's every time any brewery or
Anytime
whatever
anything
opens,
happens,
they're just like, oh, that's just what we need, more alcohol. Why
Yeah.
couldn't we have a Kroger's? Like, well, because the city doesn't incentivize people to have Kroger come in, basically. Like, I mean, there aren't tax. I mean, there's incentives that aren't there.
And I always think like breweries are great anchor businesses for kind of redeveloping neighborhoods.
Sure.
You know, like Shipping Port's a great example of that out in Portland. Like they're building a little community out there, and they're bringing people in, and they're putting on events, and they're like just creating culture.
Yeah,
and
no
beer.
doubt. The like what we talked about like a ton is like the neighborhood like pub spot is not just a brewery, it's a place to meet up, it's a place to have dinner, it's a place to,
Third space.
Yeah.
And the thing I brought up, people don't realize that, a lot of like especially if it's a distillery, when it becomes a distillery, 90% of the alcohol they consumed that they make, 90% of the alcohol they make isn't going to be consumed on premise. It's going to be in stores and other things like
That's a good
other
point.
local shops.
Yeah, it's all
So
packaged.
Not,
really.
so it's not like people are just going there getting shit housed.
also jobs.
Also
Yeah.
jobs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also
Tax revenue.
It's especially for a distillery. We don't have all the distilleries are in Nulu.
Yeah.
Who gets all the businesses from those? Nulu businesses.
Yep.
Germantown gets maybe a couple here and there for the people that want to Uber up. But you bring a distillery in, you're going to have people that do the bourbon trail. They're going to come here. They're going to go to our restaurants, go to our shops,
Yeah.
shop around here. And people don't see that. They just see this ain't the Germantown my grandpappy grew up with. And
But your great grandpappy, or like probably not even that many ago.
Exactly.
Like that's how it was historically. Like that was a brewery.
Literally.
yeah. So it's, and that's the thing. That's how the neighborhood is. And
Yeah.
You try not to read all the comments and just.
Oh, I try to read every
I try to,
single one.
I try to troll them, but I will troll. But
So we have Tropics of Capricorn or
Tropic
let's
and
go this
Capricorn, it had nothing on the can.
Okay.
I
So what
try-
is it? What is it?
Basically, Tropic Capricorn is their double IPA. They brew it only once a year,
Mhm.
and very fruity.
Super dank, super kind of like what's the aroma that I'm getting there? It's like a little bit of pine, a little bit of mango, a little bit of like
It's my favorite double IPA made in the city. So
cantaloupe, maybe.
Yeah, like there's melon. Yeah, I get that.
melon.
Yeah.
maybe a light crisp marzipan on a spring day.
I love it.
Definitely no anise.
Never
No anise,
no
no
anise.
anise.
No anise.
No, very good. Good job, buddy.
Yeah,
keeping,
Buddy's
the,
does a good
keeping the
job.
Monnik fires going over there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then a couple other beers. We don't have to open them, but I brought them. Is King Me,
Was
which
that-
is actually named after me from Country Boy Brewing.
Oh, nice.
No, that's a chess move.
No, that was named after John King too. Yeah.
You're wrong. It was actually inspired, but it's actually named after a climb on Red River Gorge.
Nice.
But I tell people it's named after me
Yeah.
because their owner Jeff is one of my best friends.
And what is King Me?
King Me's we'll open it.
Nipa.
It's a double dry hop New England IPA, brewed and canned at Country Boy, Georgetown, Kentucky. Yeah,
Cool.
It's 7% alcohol.
I mean,
So
yeah,
it's got
very,
a cool
it's very
little,
gorge-like.
gorge, like the scenery and everything. I was talking about the gorge today with a buddy, just about how much it's grown and like it's the same kind of thing with Asheville. Like I love the gorge, but I want to go there during the week because it just gets so packed. Like, and I've done like the majority of all the trails, and you love to see the growth, but then you hate to see the growth because a lot of times the growth brings trash and other
Yeah.
people
Like
get-
literal trash, like
Yeah.
too.
Well,
It just gets
people
dirty
just-
and like
and it's.
And
I would
during-
like to see the people around it benefit more
Mhm.
than they should from all the money.
Well, aren't they doing a resort there? Like, isn't that like in
Yeah.
planning?
keeps getting talked
People
about
are-
and punted and talked about and
Yeah.
punted. I hope that keeps happening, honestly.
There's like
Not that
enough
unless-
Airbnbs and like
Yeah.
treehouse condos.
Yeah, but
there,
that's I don't get into politics, but that's not the people that live there that are
Right.
making
Sure,
money. That's the
yeah.
people that bought property that are
coming in.
But it's great to see how. I mean, like when I went to Miguel's, I was amazed how big it's gotten since you could.
Oh, really? I
Since they
haven't been
changed
there
it-
in probably 5 years.
Oh, it's since they changed the liquor laws. It's it's huge.
Really?
It's
Yeah,
double
need
the
to go.
size.
It's
Yeah.
double. Yeah.
Is Miguel's the best pizza in the world, or
No.
is it only because you've just hiked like 20 miles and you're
It's
like, yeah, it's
It
pretty
is.
good though? Or is that just in my head? Like,
I remember being in Boulder, Colorado when I was still at the university on a job interview on CU's campus. And I was just sitting there like going over my notes, and all of a sudden someone walks by in a Miguel shirt, and I was
Nice.
I lost my shit because long story short,
did you guys slackline together?
no, I'm afraid of heights. I'm terrible with heights. But the owner Adam Avery, who comes down and
Yeah.
climbs at the gorge all the time.
Nice.
So,
That's
yeah.
awesome.
That's actually really funny because I went to an REI in Denver on this trip and I saw a
Yeah.
guy wearing Miguel's shirt.
That's awesome.
It's like, so the gorge is, I
It's-
mean, on the East Coast, I think it's like the #1 place to rock climb in Boulder, right?
What?
Or the natural bridge area. Like it's
Yeah,
huge
yeah.
for rock
Well,
climbing
yeah.
down there.
And,
And
you got to
Boulder.
remember, all the climbing stuff is like the gorge is like a circle. All the
Yeah.
good climbing stuff's like for miles and miles down here, to where you're not going to get the people that are camping.
Right.
Like there's
Mhm.
specific Lago Linda, and there's specific camping just for the people that climb down there.
It's a culture. When I was working with AL8, they were big into like gorge culture, and we would learn like there were people from around the world that were into rock climbing
Yeah.
that would go to the gorge just to do that, and they had a connection to AL8 as a result. Craft soda that we have here in Kentucky that we're really proud of.
It's very good.
It's fine.
I love LA.
I will say there is someone that we know that's trying to open a brewery down there. Or that if he can get the investors, he would love to do it.
Yeah.
It's just getting the stuff down there. So
Well, it needs one. It needs a brewery. That'd be really,
yeah,
really
they
cool.
have good beer bars. I mean,
Yeah.
But that's still all relatively new, right? I mean, that
Oh yeah,
I
Hops
mean,
Fork is new. Skybridge Station, which is
That's what
hands
I- that's
down
what I
my
was thinking of.
favorite place.
That's where we always stop at.
If you can get it, don't go on a Sunday because they don't serve booze because they're in the county where you can't drink alcohol on Sundays. It's one of my happy places. You know what? We should do a guy's trip during the week, do some backcountry camping.
yes, she has to check with the wife.
Yeah,
I'm gonna be jobless. I have time.
That's one of those things. It's like, because it reminds me of beer. You want to see it grow. You love seeing the development of the area, but in the back of you, in somewhere in your heart, you're like, just stay small, stay the same.
Here's a quick transition. I don't know how much time we have, but you said jobless. Let me say this to you and see if you remember. Jobless Brewing.
Oh hell yeah, he comes in here all the time.
Oh, does he still?
Yeah.
He moved, didn't he?
Yeah, I think he got married and
Yeah.
lives.
So you don't have any idea.
This is
what-
great. This is great podcast content. Yeah.
Also known as Compass in certain
Compass.
circles, but
Oh,
yeah, you know
yeah,
Compass.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
he was
Hernandez?
another old
He
old
was a
school
home
beer guy.
brewer, and
Yeah.
he was gonna try to do it. And speaking of which, you brought it up the other day. There was a Kickstarter back in the day called Lou Brew.
We saw that recently.
And
Yeah.
did you watch the video?
Oh, unfortunately.
Oh, it's terrible.
So
it was
I
at
did not.
Sergio's. I remember, but back in the day, people were pissed about it because people hated the Kickstarter idea. They were like,
That's
do
true.
work, get money. Like,
Yeah.
there was a lot of people that were against it. And
And that was a brewery that was going to open up in Germantown in like 2013.
Yeah.
2011.
They showed
Yeah.
those haters.
Yeah. Yeah. And I looked up the guy. He doesn't live here anymore.
I was gonna say, because like usually I would think that I would have known who that was, and I even remember watching that video like at work at Mel Kentucky Homebrew. I think one day I was like, oh, or maybe Paul showed me or something. But like, yeah, Louisville, dude, what a crazy.
I'll show you a
growth.
lot of cool things there.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
oh yeah. No, I miss those days in some respect because like it was so different.
It was.
You were so excited for like Watermelon Crack to come out every year, like at Apocalypse, which you still are, but like that was like
That was the highlight.
the hot shit that was
Yeah.
going on.
I mean,
Like,
I remember working at Beer Store, and this was just 2018, 2017. And yeah, it was 2017, I guess. And Akasha was still doing their watermelon goza that people got
Totally.
excited about. And I remember working at Beer Store thinking, oh man, I wish I could go to that.
yeah,
Just right
totally.
across the street.
The OG Jefferson Stout from BBC used to be, and they bottled it, used to be one of the best bourbon barrel stouts because no one else was doing. Back in the day, no one else was doing it.
Yeah.
So
Go ahead.
why was it the best at one point and no longer is, or is it
Because no one else was doing it, and then you couldn't
because
get
you
it.
weren't used to it?
You weren't used to it.
It's kind of like the Miguel's Pizza phenomenon. Is like, is it that good, or is it just
it's
like,
like we would
the
get
context? Yeah.
We would get the thing is I remember buying a bomber of 2009 BCBS at Beer Store because no one was drinking that stuff then, and it would just sit on the shelves, and it was one of the best. It got me fucking hammered.
There's also that.
I domed it, but it was one of the best beers I've ever had in my life.
That's the story for the imports too. I mean the Cantillon, Dreyfont, that would just sit there and people are like, ugh, $17 for a beer.
It's
And
dusty.
Literally, yeah.
Why is it in green glass?
Yeah, and it's and that's the thing. There is some good nostalgia about it, but yeah, that's the thing is no one else was doing it, so it was it's kind of like, okay, I'll say it like this: when you're in high school and you see your first naked lady, you see this
LRS Fest. I remember very well.
Yeah. You're like, wow, this is the best thing ever. And then you discover this. Then you go to college and maybe see more naked ladies. And you're like, oh, wow, these are pretty cool too. Then you discover the internet and
you download the whole album, Bare Naked Ladies.
I was going to say,
and you're
Star Trek: The
surprised
Next
by music.
Generation.
Yeah. And then you're like, oh my God. So it's just, you're not used to it. It's just, sorry.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely. And I mean, it's like the old, like, you have to get more and more substance to get the same high or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah.
And you said you stopped by Butchertown for their first anniversary. They're like, a lot of their core focus is like that barrel aged stout. And what'd you think about that?
What I think about the beers?
Yeah.
I didn't want the coconut one, but they gave me the coconut one. I was super impressed. I will say and I told him, I said, hey, as I said, I was the first time there. And, we used to have places that were doing some really cool stouts, and then they just kind of got away from them. But they were pretty damn good. I love the non-adjunct stuff, and he's doing some stuff so small, there's less of a chance of infection and things like that. Like, I was looking through photos the other day. Dude, when ATG had Bo and Luke Day, everyone was there.
Yeah.
Everyone waited in line.
They'd bring the old Dodge Charger, park it outside of the tap room, and like people would just pack it.
Yeah, there was photos of me like on short Daisy Duke shorts, like leaning over the hood somewhere. But yeah, that was the thing is no one else was doing that stuff, and people were excited about it. Now ATG drops their Bo and Luke in cans, and it's like just a random post. Hey, by the way, Bo and Luke's here. And
I feel like COVID put a little bit of a kibosh on that too. Because it was like they were doing it at Copper and Kings.
Weren't they doing $5 tattoos?
That sounds probably accurate.
Yeah.
$10.
Yeah. And, Copper and Kings, we held a sick event there called Lock, Stock, and Smoking Barrels, where we gave breweries brandy barrels, and then they did beer in it. Wasn't well attended. We all got fucking hammered. That was where Monnik, Scott Hand, made their barley wine called Never Be Gold and put it in a brandy barrel, which hands down is the best.
It's hands down.
Hands down, the best beer that Monnik has ever produced.
I still stand Milkweg. That was one of the first ones from them that blew me away. That like Brett double IPA that they made with Galaxy. Yeah. It was very good.
Yeah.
But no, that was a super good one too.
Yeah, and I was thinking today, like when Mile Wide first showed up, people waited in line for their double IPAs.
You sat outside in a tent.
Just to be there.
I remember that video.
I did.
That was great.
Who did that video? Was it just me?
It was just
Ultimate
you.
John King.
Because the reason
but-
I met Don Howard, this is another quick tangent, but the reason I ever met Don Howard, because you were in the tent joking about Don showing up. I never knew you or Don, so I meet Don and I'm like, are you and John like dating? Which is hilarious.
I love Don.
Like in hindsight, just because been friends for so long. But yeah, I mean, so I mean, we with the Ultra, we're doing events. We're doing Louisville Beer Week every year. Like, what's missing in your opinion? Like, where does that context?
What can we work on?
Yeah,
That's a really good question.
we have a lot more people to work with now too. Is the thing. So.
Better podcast guests would be the first thing.
Yeah, better podcast guests. And this was probably back in the day too when I dealt with it. Getting breweries to realize the importance of the work that we're doing, and that a majority of the time we're not doing it for the money, because I didn't make shit back in the day.
You literally didn't. Like, you worked for the
No,
Guild
I'm talking about Louisville beer.
But still, I mean,
Yeah,
you
it's just
put in
Love
work.
of the game.
the amount of work that we would put in and the little outcome we saw, but we could see the growth. That's my biggest thing, is realizing that, yes, you will get new people there, and that's how you're going to be sustained. The one thing is breweries have a lot of shit on their plate, and there's so many
Small
people are
business owners.
asking for so much. Like back in the day, you know, I can't remember the rule anymore, but tons of donation. Like, can you donate this keg? And like
still.
certain laws, and I can ask for donations like all the time. So I'm just like, I was like, oh man, this is why they got pissed about it all, because you just figure it out, because you have to figure out, all right, what's actually worth donating something for your marketing budget and what's not. And a lot of times is you're going to donate something, same thing with me, and you will not hear one single thing about it. No customer is going to be like, oh yeah, we saw this and we would like to buy 7 of them. No, they're at that place, that time, they're excited about it.
It's a 1-to-1 exchange.
Yeah, it's a 1-to-1 exchange.
Tip for people trying to solicit donations from companies: go in, drop off a one sheeter, say, "Hey, we're doing this. We want to donate."
No.
Walk away.
You have a very specific rule for who you want to donate to, right?
Yeah, so every year I kind of I have certain groups I donate to, whether it be dogs, a lot of times with cystic fibrosis. I have no connection to it, but every year I set aside certain groups that I'm always going to donate to. If it's a customer who's bought a lot and they ask for a donation, chances are I'm going to get one. If someone just forwards me an email, copy and paste, I don't care. It could be anything. I automatically delete it. If they're not going to take the time to recognize me or my business and just want to get something, yeah, I'm just going to delete it, because it's just not worth my time. To go back to that previous question, and I guess this goes back to nostalgia, I wish that the brewers and the owners would almost come back to having fun again, because it's gotten to be more of a business, which I understand. I run a business.
Yeah, same.
But that fun aspect
Well, I think we all fight that to some extent. It's like,
isn't there anymore.
yeah.
Like it's, you know,
Well, especially right now, like after COVID, like everybody's just fucking stressed and like
yeah, I get it.
tired and like dead inside a little bit. Like, but yeah, getting the joy. Isn't that like there's some kind of like a Jungian thing there about like rediscovering what you loved when you were a child as you enter the 3rd phase of life or whatever. It's like as you reach maturity, you stop caring about what everybody else wants you to do, and you stop caring about like all the fires you have to put out. And the goal is to remember what you loved about it in the beginning. The
Talking
thing that
about
gave
the
you
Oedipus
joy.
complex?
Something like yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what that is.
the mother that eats
The mother, yeah.
and then stab out your eyes. That's the goal of a little beer.
Yeah, and it's not. I'm not trying to say that for
Well-
any specific brew. It's just like, for example, when I went to Wessex the other day, ran into Phil from BBC, ran into RT from Goodwood, and then ran into Drew as well. And I hadn't seen him in a while, so it was just good to just connect and just to have everyone there, like kind of. But you know, that's the thing, is when you get busy, you're less the face of it anymore. Like for example, DH from Country Boy, can't get a hold of him, and he's just not at events anymore because he's doing other
You have
stuff.
to tweet him.
No, I'll never tweet.
No,
him.
so I will say, and granted, they could be looking at this from a business perspective, networking perspective, or whatever. But we host these Trail Tuesday events. We had 9 breweries represented last night at Gravely.
Yeah.
Monnik showed up. I mean, it was just so nice to see like Brian and Ian intermingling. Nick Landers was there from Gordon Biersch. Like we had a good, solid group of people having fun, drinking. Sam Cruz, like I think that is an excuse for them to come out and maybe see each other more than they do.
Here's an early photo I found of Brian and Ian when they had their beer
That's
engine.
the beer
shirt.
engine.
Yeah, this was
Danville.
before they realized that starting 2 businesses would crush their soul. I was
Hey,
saying,
they're hanging out. They're hanging on pretty good, man. I love those guys.
Oh, by the way, I think even Ian was just like, "Hey, man, I've been listening to the podcast.
Nice.
It's really good.
Shout out.
So shout out Ian if you're listening.
You want to come on, guys?
yeah. So it's
We need better guests. Clearly.
you can't turn back time, but I think it's something. I don't know if it's nostalgia, but I wish that we could go back to it to a degree. I understand everyone is busy, everyone has families. We've all kind of grown up.
Yeah.
But
Well, are we getting close enough to Beer Week that I can tease a little bit of our theme and get John King's feedback on it, or do you guys want to keep that under wraps?
I've kind of already been talking to him
All
about
right.
one thing about
the
it.
nostalgia kind of vibe is
I
like,
am 100% on. I think people like Worth and Kevin Gibson and certain other people like that would be on.
yeah.
Yeah, it'd be cool.
The if we're approaching year 5 of us kind of helping with like organizing Louisville Beer Week and kind of being
We organize.
trying to be modest here.
Yeah.
Herding cats basically,
helping.
but like kind of taking that like 5 years, and that's, you know, here it is 2022. Like 5 years is kind of abstract, but just looking back on like how different it was and how nuts it was and how young we all were and how like innocent we would smile in pictures when people would take them of us. We would be super excited for like a new like, oh, there's a new IPA coming out from like Against the Grain. Like they're using like, New Zealand hops. Have you heard about those? Ooh, grapefruit in an IPA.
Beers.
Like everything was new and fun and fresh. And now we're like all jaded and old and everybody's on TikTok and we don't understand the world anymore. So just, I don't know. I think there's just something that people like about, well, Pepsi's putting all their stuff in like throwback cans. Like, you know, it's throwback.
Do you know how much clothes and furniture we had in our house with Pepsi points? Do you ever do the Pepsi points with the catalogs back in the day?
No.
No, man. I just do
No.
Underberg caps.
That's how fucking poor we were. Like all of our beach towels were Pepsi, wore Pepsi shirts because we just went through cases of it. And I was like, oh yeah, we can redeem these for Pepsi.
Hell yeah,
It's
waste
kind of
not,
like
want
Marlboro miles.
Sure.
Same concept.
Or Underberg caps.
Yeah,
hate
or Underberg caps. Not a bird guy.
It's fucking gross.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
It's not.
No, it's gross, but that's why it's good.
That's like being like Malort is awesome. Malort's great.
See, Malort's
Malort's
terrible.
fine.
No,
I
hate
like Malort. The more I drink it, the more like actually the last couple times I've drank it, my first thought, which kind of scared me, was, oh, it's not as bad as I remember.
All right,
That's exactly what you want.
here's what
and
you do: try Malort at 7 p.m. instead of 2 in the morning,
Oh.
and then tell me how good Malort is.
So I can see it being like an old man aperitif vibe or something like that. Yeah.
Let's move on to our last and
Fuck yeah, dude.
most
John's
precious,
busting out the hot shit.
most precious beer of the night. We have a Schlafly Pumpkin Ale.
ASMR.
That's 8% alcohol. Schlafly Pumpkin Ale blends the spices of the harvest with full-bodied sweetness for a beer that tastes like pumpkin pie. Here's to pumpkin season. Thanks, Schlafly.
Is this like a 2013 bottle that you found in your basement, or?
No, this was no, this is brand
Pour
new.
it as close to the mic as you can. Let's get that. You're doing the sexy ASMR. Let's get that glug. Oop. Yeah. There we go.
So this beer is hands down one of my favorite beers of all time. I used to put like sugar and cinnamon on top of it. It's changed over the years, like all beers have.
Sure.
But I remember, God,
There
how
you go, Michael. There
the
you go.
thing was back in the day, this beer, they didn't release these beers in August. You used to be able to find them. Oh,
I've wet myself.
you used to be able to find them in October because I used to go to, here's another throwback, O'Shea's and Flanagan's used to be craft beer bars.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah.
Get it.
Pour
like
that
you-
on the mic.
Sacrifices must be made
It's like
for
you
pumpkin
put your
beer.
it's like you put your pumpkins on my face. So I remember going to O'Shea's on Halloween night. Who was I? I was dressed as a frat boy. I had 3 pop collars
Hell yeah.
and drinking pints of that. I drank 8 pints of that one night.
That's amazing.
you turned into a pumpkin.
I did. I was super.
Cinderella.
Thankfully, I had a short walk home.
All right, so let's go back to that. Like, who's that? What is it? Not John Milton.
John
Tiger,
Freeman.
Tiger, Burning Bright, and the William Blake. Songs of Innocence and Songs of Experience.
Yeah, we were all thinking that.
Okay,
Yeah.
but this is like that song of. It's just like when we were all like when we weren't jaded. Now we're like pumpkin beer. I was just talking to this with the guy at
have we
Liquor
not-
World
have
across
we
the store. It's like
not-
pumpkin beer earlier every year.
Have we been paying for your therapy bill lately?
No, you guys, the credit card lapsed. It's
so
all out of control.
the first beer I ever homebrewed was a pumpkin beer,
Oh, really?
and I did it in the most mad scientist / I don't know what I'm doing way possible. I just made like an amber, and then I had pumpkin puree.
No, dude. And you've actually just reminded me of like being not jaded because that I think one of the first beers I did was probably a pumpkin ale.
Dogfish Head still makes their pumpkin ale.
Yeah. Pumpkin.
Pumpkin.
It's
yeah.
a brown ale, which is a higher ABV. Actually, Salt in Campbellsville almost got a 4-pack of that. Dogfish Head was my gateway. Like Palo Santo. Like if I still see Palo Santo,
Mhm.
I grab it every time.
Oh yeah.
If I see
That's
odd. What was their Raisin Dietre?
Mm,
Raisin
yeah, I
Dietre
like that
was
one
the
too.
beer that got me into it. Like I was like, oh my god, this is awesome.
Is that one of the historical ones they do, or is that just like is it a state song?
You can still find Raisin Day Extra, which is the higher ABV version at the K.
Nice. Okay.
It's 7 years old, but it's still at the K
In Clarksville?
in Clarksville, Indiana.
Can we all agree though? Fuck pumpkin. I hate that beer. I've always
I like
hated it.
Warlock.
Warlock is a really much better product in my opinion.
Is that Southern Tier? They're both.
Yeah. Yeah, Southern Tier in the day, I mean, it used to have the creme brulee, the chocolat, and they were just so overpowering beers.
Maltodextrin, like it tasted like maltodextrin.
And pumpkin has changed. Like pumpkin used to be halfway decent. Now it's just hot garbage. But I mean, Smutty Nose made a really good pumpkin beer.
Dude.
Back
I remember.
in the day.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
Smutty Nose, which is one of the low key, when you married to a woman that's from that area, you drink a shitload of Smutty Nose.
I love Smutty Nose.
Very Old Brown Dog is one of the best.
Yes, I agree.
Brown ales.
They had an IPA that I really liked too. I can't remember the name of it.
Finest Kind.
Was it the two old dudes sitting in like lawn chairs?
I think that's Finest. There's Finest Kind and then something else.
Yeah.
I know this
David
is
and I were just
old
like,
school.
No,
I don't know
it's
what's
so
going on.
so good.
Smutty Nose had Big A IPA.
Big A was good too. Yeah.
Then the offshoot of Smutty Nose, which was Todd Mott's place that did the Big Stout.
I won't get there.
It was Portsmouth Brewing.
Oh, okay.
Great.
I didn't know those were connected.
Portsmouth Brewing was great. God, what was her name?
Great Divide.
No, it was a female that was great. Kate the Great. That's it.
Okay.
Kate the Great.
Kate the Great, which is, I remember DVD had some of it. So, yeah.
Yeah, but have you heard of like Floodland and Holy Mountain? I mean, you just
I've been to Holy Mountain. I got
I've seen the movie from like the 60s or
drunk
whatever.
there with my cousin.
What makes a
That's
good pumpkin
Escape to
beer?
Witch Mountain.
That's a great movie from the 90s or the 80s. Yeah.
What makes a good pumpkin beer has a lot to do with the weather, the temperature, your atmosphere.
Is this an old bottle?
No, it's brand new.
Okay. Like they just made this year?
Yeah, you can go to Old Town Liquors on Bardstown Road and get it.
So this is not vintage. This is really good because it actually smells more like pumpkin than it does just like cinnamon bomb.
Yeah. Just for me, what makes a beer good is more about the experience who you're drinking with than the beer itself.
Yeah,
That's always the case.
That's always, and I have friends that are totally against that and like to jerk off against beer, but not like jerk off literally against the beer, but about the concept and what's in the bottle itself.
Yeah.
So
I
probably
expected this to be like way more overpowering.
It's
It's actually
very mild.
there's
really
more in there,
approachable.
David.
I might.
Yeah, I mean,
I would always tell people that the best pumpkin ales are homebrews, like but that reminds me of that vibe you can do when you just put puree on a baking sheet and caramelize a little bit and like.
Well, I guess we didn't want any more. Thanks, Dave.
Yeah, thanks, David.
yeah, but
Tis the season, motherfucker.
Really
Drink
though,
on
any
pumpkin.
kind of beer like that, the autumn releases, the autumnal spices they use, like those are good. They get shit on a lot, but they are good. One of my favorites, new favorites actually, going back to Shipping Port, their pumpkin spice IPA that they released last year.
Oh god, yeah, that
It's
was
still
crazy.
it's incredible.
Wait, I missed that.
I never had it.
Oh, it's so good. Like it's just very subtle, but also very just like
Designed to
warming.
be drank in the fall.
Yeah.
Or the autumnal season, as you said.
Yeah, it's
Autumnal.
This
autumnal.
is 8%.
Yeah. Doesn't taste like it either.
No,
No,
this is
and
like-
see,
Good
there's-
job, Schlafly.
There's haters. The only issue I have is that they release them now and they don't re-release them because they're because now they're what's
all
next
all
is
the SKUs. I mean, that's
all the
just sure.
SKUs. What is August? We'll have Christmas sales in a month.
Mhm.
We have Oktoberfest already.
Oktoberfest.
So-
I can forgive an Oktoberfest in August,
Oh.
but pumpkin ale in August is
I
a
would
little
love to
different.
come back on for a whole thing of Christmas beers
Let's
and
do
we
it.
taste.
You want to do our 12 beers of Christmas show with us this year?
If someone,
we'll invite you. We'll invite you.
if Saturday dresses as Santa Claus,
Yeah.
and I will be Mrs.
I
Claus.
think he still has a suit from somewhere that he stole. So I will say a quick little story. I'm not gonna say the name because it doesn't matter. But I went to a brewery today, and there was a bartender who was a little green, a little new, and the person I was with said, "Hey, I see you have an Oktoberfest on. Is that a Marzen?" And she kind of like stuttered around. I don't know. I'm kind of new. I have to check. And then 10 minutes goes by. He leaves for a second, and she asked me, "It's like, oh, what was he asking about? Like, what did he ask if it was?" And I was like, "Oh, he was asking if it was a Marzen Oktoberfest." And she was like, "Oh no, it's a lager."
Hmm. And again, going back to that, like
it is a lager.
It is a lager.
It is.
That's true. Yeah,
It is, yeah. And she was like, "But I'm still pretty new, so I'm
Okay,
still
so
learning."
this ties the whole thing together because
does.
it's like, how do you take that little thing that you love and bring it to scale? Like you're making barrel shit in your garage, and it's like if you hired,
yeah, all the barrel
Correct.
shit.
dude, I'm
It
selling
is
shit. I'm
shit.
selling homebrew shit out of a little store in like freaking Preston Highway or Preston Street. It's like, how do you take something to scale without losing the magic of it, because that's what you're doing. You've grown a business and you haven't like bought a CNC machine or started getting your stuff made in China and shipped over. You're not like, it's still handcrafted.
Yeah, I don't rely on that machine to do all my work.
Can I have it?
No, it's not. I'm not like taking images or like buying certain things off Etsy, throwing a little piece of wood under it, in that thing engraving and laser cutting everything.
Yeah,
and,
you make it all. Like,
I
it's
make
not
it all.
like
The
you're
only thing I
outsourcing
engrave
it.
is- yeah, it's
How do you scale that, or do you? And then you take so taking that to beer, it's like you have to hire new people, and right now it's hard to get people.
Absolutely. And by
so
the way,
how
that-
do you
that story
take
was
that
not
culture?
me
No. I know it's
bashing
not.
anybody,
It's
but
not. But
it
that's
was
that's the truth. That's like the reality on the ground. Is everybody's having to bring new people in, and not everybody was around 15 years ago to like get cultured in craft beer. Some people just need a job. Like, how does I don't know. Is that a point?
one thing you have to remember is there was at one point where none of us here knew what the fuck a Marzen was.
Exactly.
And that's what's like how you approach that situation is, an old beer nerd guide would be like,
Well,
actually, like some guy that I was down at, went on the waterfront on a bike ride and there's a triathlon race going. I was like, hey, what? I was like, is this a sprint? As in a sprint try? He's like, it's a triathlon. I go, no, is it a sprint? As in that's the distance. Well, yeah, they're gonna swim by. And I'm like, you don't need to fucking tell me.
Yeah.
I know. And that, like in the situation like that is, that person is eventually, if they stay at that brewery, that person is eventually going to learn and figure out the ropes. And the thing is, we need those people like that in there because that's going to grow the population. They're going to get excited about beer just like you and I did when we first got off Miller Lite and turned on a Dogfish Head or something like that.
Yeah, there's no room for that pretentiousness either.
No.
We need we need them. I will say, I mean, I've told you both before, but at one point, Akasha hired somebody that wasn't even 21 yet. Legal, whatever.
Spencer,
but like,
was it Spencer?
Yeah, right.
No.
But like, she was clearly like she was learning about craft beer before she could even drink it legally, and so I think that's amazing, actually. Like, just to get the perspective so early on, because it took me
That's why I started making beer. I was like 18. I couldn't buy it. I was like, we're just gonna make this
it
shit.
is like intimidating.
But like,
there's 50 different styles plus.
Yeah. It's very intimidating.
And you're working at a brewery. By the time you turn 21 and you already know that you like sours. I remember drinking an Interstate Valley Goza for the first time at like age 24 and thinking, people drink this? And then for a while, like, sours were my favorite style out there.
Those Anderson Valley Gosas were
the
popping
GT
for a minute.
Nope.
Oh, dude, I loved their blood orange one. I loved their like Melanie whatever one.
Melon,
Briny.
Yeah, there was a summer where that was like my drink. Yeah.
Wes, she call. Are you done? Are we out? Do you have to close this out?
My watch says it's my bedtime.
Oh, jeez, David.
It's only 9:05.
Oh shit!
Wow,
that's late. We should probably wrap this up.
Yeah, probably so. But I don't know. I think that's great, and I think bringing new people in and like remembering why we all loved it. Why we all loved it.
Yeah, you can't be pretentious. You can't be an asshole about it.
Honestly, I mean, we say this a lot, but if you're not having fun doing this, then get out, because like, we're talking about beer.
Yeah,
it is the most unnecessary product in existence.
Hey now.
Sure. I mean, yeah, humanity couldn't get it started without it. We needed it to drink water, whatever.
Some people will say the agricultural revolution was because of beer, not the other way around.
Sure. I'm just saying it's a luxury.
Sure.
To be able to spend money on beer is a privilege and a luxury.
Absolutely.
That many people don't have, or maybe they choose.
It never tends to work out
sometimes.
that way, but yeah.
So I'm just saying, like, if you work in beer, have fun with it.
Yeah.
It's a business. Business can be stressful, but just, it's fucking beer.
And that's kind of encompasses the whole podcast today, was to make beer fun again.
Yeah.
That's what we learned tonight. So John, what did we learn?
Make beer fun again.
Yeah, and drink it with friends, and doing a beer podcast.
More importantly, buy DrunkWood. Come on.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Absolutely.
It's hashtag buy DrunkWood.
You guys can check him out on Etsy. You guys can check him out on all over the internet. There's somebody else who hijacks his account every once in a while. Buck or whoever that guy is, but we don't have to talk about that.
He's dead.
Bucky, yeah.
Buck's dead.
But John, thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah,
Since Michael is the host, I'll let you close it. I don't want to step on hosting duties.
That's all right. John, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks, Mike.
I'm glad you're here.